students. Yes?
John Cena, WWE wrestler. Didn't know anything about him. I did a project on Ask an Expert. Each kid taught me about whatever they knew the most about. So that was it. I learned way more than I knew.
That's a great result. Because actually, this is the thing, was that when I found that because I have my smartphone doesn't actually work as a phone. I got it for free at the TED conference, and yeah, I know they give out phones for free. That's kind of amazing. And so what I use it for is the internet, and that means that if I have a burning question at 3 a.m., more like 1 a.m., then I can just look it up on the internet, and so I'll find answers to quite all the weirdest questions, and it's kind of amazing that I'm just able to look it up like that and find my answer. And what's happened is that this is kind of similar things happen. I'll find a lot more about things that I wouldn't have learned if I were just, reading the assigned books or something. So yeah, that's kind of an amazing ability. Any other things you've learned from students? Yes?
I learned that a group of blue jays is called a party.
A group of blue jays is called a party?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I'm not good with the names of like feral animals, so that's good to know. Okay. Anyone else learn from their students? Whether it's a vocabulary word or a philosophy of life, it could be pretty much anything. Okay, well then we'll advance the presentation. I think that there's really a lot to be learned. Whether you're asking students simple questions, or you have an ask an expert, where they bring a topic of their expertise, you can learn a lot. Maybe as far as the philosophy of life stuff, it could be the naive belief that anything is possible. And for those of you who have gone through life, you think, well, no, it's not, but many 5-year-olds think that. The reason that I got started speaking and going to schools and talking to students about reading and writing was because at 5, I didn't realize that there were people who didn't like to read and write, and upon hearing that, I decided I'm going to change that. There was no, let's look at statistics and determine the feasibility of the execution of this project. It was, I'm going to go to the local elementary school and let's have a presentation where we all write about stuff the animals together. And that was it. Maybe it's the creativity that you see in 3-year-old's crayon drawings, or the idea that, or maybe our expertise in technology, as I talked about earlier. So it's obvious that just as we can learn a lot from you, you can learn a lot from us. And yet too often our schools don't create that many opportunities for young people to share what they know. So those of you who have projects where students can share what they're passionate about and what they know about, as well as what they're unsure about and research that's extremely valuable to students. At the Kids Conference I organized, TEDx Run, we heard from speakers who talked about budget cuts in their schools and cafeteria lunches, and impact and creativity, all these education-related things which affected them. And in every case, these were things which had been decisions which had been made without any input. A lot of schools don't have a framework in place for asking students, well, what do you think about this? What would be the impact of this decision on your everyday life, since you're the one going to school every day? And I think that this is something that you can all work on, whether it's starting in your classroom, giving student input on the next project, or on a unit of study. I think that we can all do our part to make sure that students feel that they have a voice, not just outside of school, but in. At my house, we have a book of brain teasers, and one of them tells a story about a boy going to the hospital, and he's seen by a doctor who says, "This is my son." But his dad isn't at the hospital, so how is this possible? Well, for those of you who've heard this brain teaser before, of course, it's his mom, who's the doctor, and a lot of people think of doctors as being men, and so it's a stereotype. What is the image that you think of when you hear teacher? Probably it's a group looking much like you. But why does the teacher always have to be an adult? I want you to think about that image, and maybe the next time you think of teacher, you'll not only see this group, but also the group that walks into your classroom every day. I've been making comparisons about student hats versus teacher hats, and I'm going to think in the perspective of a teacher now, but really you shouldn't have such a clear divide, because everyone has something to learn and everyone has something to teach. As we heard, you've learned from your students about technology and about other things. And raising the bar for tomorrow's leaders means letting us have experience leading and teaching today. Teaching and learning is a two-way street, but unlike on the real street, there's no driver's age requirement. To the educators in the audience, I'd like to thank you for your hard work in raising the bar for tomorrow's leaders. I encourage each one of you, whether you're a teacher or a student or both, to think about what you each can learn from the other. Because after all, I think it's very true that only when we know how to learn, we really know how to teach. Thank you. My books, Flying Fingers and Dancing Fingers, if you'd like to look at them or get them autographed, they will be available for sale. I'm not sure exactly where, but somewhere outside I can be leaving. So if you'd like to find out more about those, they are.